Welcome to episode 14 of the Winz Live interview series. I'm Amy Sheridan, host and founder of Winz Media. The mission of this series is to elevate the visibility of women in sports and entertainment by creating a connected environment for authentic storytelling. Thank you for joining me as I speak with influential leaders across sports, entertainment, and beyond. I'm so excited and truly, truly excited and honored today to have my guest, Priya Narasimhan, CEO of YinzCam, professor of electrical and computer engineering at Carnegie Mellon University. Priya is a professor, a founder, and a runner. Her YinzCam mobile product is used by 200 professional sports clubs and over 1 million sports fans worldwide. I interviewed Priya years ago for Sports Business Journal when her app was just taking hold of the industry. And I've used her work as a teaching tool in my sports marketing classes. In complete honesty, I talked about it in every single semester of teaching sports marketing. I would consider her to be one of the original women-owned businesses in the space, way before her time. And I'm thrilled to welcome her today. Welcome, Priya.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you for having me here. And thank you for all your support over so many years.
You are so very welcome. Again, you are a true icon to me as someone who has a business and is a woman CEO, as they would say. You're one of the originals. So before we get into the questions, I wanted to ask you, and I've noted some of your posts on Instagram where you're sort of mid-run. Can you tell me, when did you become a runner? Is this something that's on the newer side for you?
I think I became a runner, about 3 years after my son was born. It was just something that I wanted to do with him because, kids at that age, they just like to run around. We'd sign up for 5Ks together. It was just a nice thing to be on that finish line together because it would just be the two of us and it was just amazing. So, but then really I got addicted to running and it just became a thing for me. It's one of those things that if I haven't run in the morning, I'm restless all day until I get my run in. So, but it really started with, this is a cool thing to do with my son.
So you ran with your son as a young child?
Yes, and when he was 5, from when he did, I think, a 1 miler at that point in time, to, as he was 7, 8, we do 5Ks, 10Ks, most of those distances. We just do that because it was great to roll out of bed on a weekend and get out there and be in the fresh air and just cross the finish line together.
I'm really impressed. I was in my head, I was thinking he was in a stroller and you were one of the that was winning races, pushing a stroller.
I wish. He was always ahead of me, which is good.
That is great. I mean, a 5K for an 8-year-old is really an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah, I think at that age, they don't really think from a distance standpoint, right? It's just running and it's what they do until they wear out every day anyway. So I don't think they're thinking any different.
That's amazing though. That's really amazing. So thanks for sharing that. And when you post on Instagram, I just envision you just around the hills of Pittsburgh. And I don't know if that's reality,
No, it is. Where I live, it's extremely hilly, which is good, right? You get a lot of hill training in. So, I don't need to set a treadmill incline for it. It's just naturally the terrain here.
I love it. And I can definitely understand a day without a run is entirely different than a day with a run. It's like when you start a day with a run, you feel like $1 million all day.
Right. It is. It's a game changer.
It is. Okay. And the second thing I noticed just before diving in is you lead your bio across the board. So on LinkedIn and other places with professor. So I just wanted to ask you why that is. Why do you start with that? Is that, to be first in your bio?
Yep. No, absolutely. So I've been a professor of computer engineering for 20 years. Teaching is something I always wanted to do. Research is something that I've always wanted to do. So I've been doing that, I would say, easily for 25, 26 years. I love teaching. I love being around students at the age of their life when they don't think anything is impossible. As you get older, you get jaded, right? As all the different things hit you. But what's amazing about being around students at the age of their life when they don't think anything is impossible is it rubs off. You can feel their invincibility. You can feel that they're absolutely fearless because at that age you haven't met impossible, and it's just electric. It really is very different walking into a class knowing that you're going to be challenged, that every single thing you say they're going to find a way to verify, cross-verify, and that it's going to be a giant discussion with 120 people whose minds are on fire. I just think that that's an irreplaceable feeling. And for me, that spills over into my work because the sense that nothing is impossible is then, kind of rubs off onto you from these students who are just thinking that way. So you approach everything else that way.
Absolutely. I've heard people say it keeps you young.
It does. It does. It
Right.
does. It really does, because I don't think I've ever been in a class where I didn't laugh out loud over something a student said and just thought that was amazing that somebody would just think of something so innovative like that. Students surprise me every day and they're an absolute joy.
I love it. I love you haven't met impossible at that age. That's really like a powerful statement right in and of itself. So thank you for sharing that. I really love that you lead with it because YinzCam's not a tiny deal, right? YinzCam's a big deal. So I think it's pretty powerful that you choose to lead with that. It says a lot about you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about where you are right now. So you're at the center of sports technology, and you have been for what I have recorded as 12 years. Hopefully, I'm correct with that. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're focused on today in your role as CEO of one of the prominent mobile products in the global sports industry?
Thank you. Great question. So I think for me right now, it's a few things. It's one, helping all of our clients as they're going back from this pandemic phase, right? So one of the things we did as soon as the pandemic hit, it's almost a year and a half ago, was the first 72 hours after we entered lockdown and basically sports paused, right? Live sports paused. We took the first 72 hours and we built a whole bunch of stuff and we just gave it away for free to our clubs because we wanted to be of use. I mean, we knew we could do certain things, right? We can do engineering really, really rapidly. Like this is something we just know how to do. Live sports had paused. So how could we be of use when all of us were sitting at homes and it felt unnatural? I mean, even my entire team, everybody was home. The first 72 hours were, let's go be of use. And so we just literally globally, we gave a whole bunch of stuff away because we knew teams would need make good inventory because you basically didn't have in-venue inventory at that point. So that was important. So I like the pace of innovation we run at. Our platform grows in about 30% new features every year. So for me, what's on my mind right now is, what am I going to invent next year that I don't even know exists? What will next week look like? But then more importantly, what is next year? Because what is my new 30% next year? And understanding that, and understanding in, this safe return to the stadium that every sports team is wondering about. What can we invent that we know has longevity to it? So it's not just something every team uses in the next year, but it really has teeth to it. What can we look at? And we've already rolled out a whole bunch of things, but for me, I know that's an active area that I'm worrying about and obsessing over.
Yes, you hit on a lot of stuff there that I have written down in various locations on my piece of paper here. So, talking about giving stuff away during that period of time shows the type of business owner you are, right? Generous business owner. You talk about how you guys can engineer rapidly. It makes me ask the question in my head, was your team, are they all equipped to engineer from home?
Yes. I mean, I think over the last year, we've had to. And I think the great thing about the digital business is we can without a blip, right? Without missing a beat, we can. I think that's kind of awesome. And, going back to the point about generosity, I personally don't feel it was, because the company was built, frankly, off the backs of all of these clubs who believed in us for, 12, 13 years now. I mean, we didn't exist without any one of them. I mean, if I think about some of them 12, 13 years ago, it's like they took such a huge chance on me. I mean, I'm not from the industry. I've never played any of the sports that, I basically now play in, from a vendor standpoint. They had absolutely no reason to believe me or believe in the product, but they did. And we stand here because of the fact that they believed. And I have so much affection and gratitude for that. And this was the only time we could do something, anything for them. So it was more that than anything else, just because I don't think we exist without them.
Right. Although I would argue that it's mutual because you brought them something they needed back then, right?
No, and I think that's true. And I think a large part of our platform is because it really, the way I think about our platform is it's a crowdsourced innovation platform, right? Every club drops features in. So the credit is not even us. Yeah, we are great at engineering, but a club will drop in a feature, another one will pick it up, they'll put their own twist on it, another club drops in a feature, another one picks it up. So really, it's like this crowdsourced brain trust that happens to be our platform. It's just fantastic that 200 of these amazing sports minds treat our platform as a crowdsourced brain trust. I mean, that's ridiculously cool, in my opinion.
That is so cool.
It really is. It still gives me goosebumps every day that they would just say, they'll walk up to us and say, hey, have you built a thing like this? Would you like to? And my answer is always, yeah, sure, why not?
Right.
I like that they believe we can do this. And I think that's one of the most gratifying things.
Right. They've built a ton of confidence in your ability. And like you're saying, I mean, even when the pandemic hit, your team can keep going. You said we engineer rapidly. And that's key in maintaining the trust of these, like you said, these big, powerful sports brains, these people that are leading the industry. It is a very big deal. And I love hearing it. I love hearing a little bit more about the story. And I really love hearing you say, we're looking at next year and what can we create that doesn't already exist that has longevity. I'm excited to see what comes.
I am too. I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is. Right. Right. So it's a nice transition into my second question, which, I knew a lot about you before today. And then you shared with me a little tidbit that, you said you started your journey in computer engineering. And then you successfully launched this little startup, right, that would ultimately become a major profitable technology business without funding. Okay, so I must know, how did you pull this off?
Absolutely. So the first company that I did in California, we did the usual thing, right? Like, you go through Series A, Series B, Series C. I was involved in those fundraising rounds. You get a boatload of money, you scale up the company. Then I did a nonprofit for blind people. And in between those two, when I came to Carnegie Mellon first. This third one, I just wanted to know for myself. If the product is good, it should sell itself, it should sustain itself. I wanted to know if we could do it. It was more that than anything else, because we did have VCs approach us. We still do to this day, but can we do this? Is the product good enough that we can last without taking a nickel? And that was fundamental in just seeing if we could, right? And we're here 13 years later, and we didn't have to take a nickel. And that was fundamental. It was, the product should be good enough that we should be able to sell it, and that should be able to sustain it, and we should still be able to do R&D. And it was just, let's see if we can do this.
How big was your team at the beginning?
Oh, we had, I don't know, when we first started this as a pilot with the Penguins, we'd have maybe about 15 to 20 people on the team. And then when we actually spun off as a company, I'd say we had 5 or 6 people. And then we grew it from there. And I think, again, what was interesting was everybody was scrappy. And the other portion of also not taking venture funding, I mean, think of the odds, right? I mean, I walk into a VC office, I walk in for venture funding. I have no Rolodex in the industry, no connections in the industry, no vetting in the industry. I've got nothing except an idea and the fact that I'm in love with the idea. And that's it. why would anybody bet on me? Right. I mean, I wouldn't blame them if they didn't want to. I mean, so there was no point focusing on that. And what I wanted to do was instead focus on building a great product. And the number one thing that I think, in my opinion, matters, landing a first paying client, because to me, that's validation, right? And that's what, even with students, I teach them, is that the number one thing that matters is make sure you get that first paying client. That's validation, not VC funding. VC funding is not validation.
Right. And the Penguins were the first client.
The Penguins are the first client. And, you know, huge credit to the folks at the Penguins, right? I mean, David Soltis, who believed in us, and I don't even know why he did, right? James Santilli, Eric Watts, David Morehouse. I mean, so many great people who I don't even know that I gave them a reason to believe in us, but they did. And here we are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I heard, and actually Elisa Padilla, who's on right now, she told me that she was present for your presentation in her prior role with, I think, Brooklyn Sports and Entertainment.
Yes.
And she shared with me that she was just in awe of the way that you pitched this product. And I think probably that has something to do with why people were ready to trust you as someone who was new to the business. And obviously you guys have continued that, you know, to uphold the reputation.
No, I mean, and it was fantastic meeting Lisa, because I mean, her brain is on fire. I mean, just sitting in a room with her, I absorbed so much, because it's like, she knows the ins and outs of the industry, and she really, really, really is one of the most forward thinkers. What we built with them, way ahead of its time, had never been seen. The kind of, you know, mobile loyalty program we built with them, with the number of touch points, it was incredible. And it's, like I said, it's electric being around Elisa, because you can just feed off of the energy of doing that. The other thing that I think for me was really interesting was, at that point in time, right, the one thing that I had going into all the meetings with all of these prospective clients was the fact that, you're right, I had no industry knowledge, but I knew the product cold. I mean, I knew what I built, and I knew the product cold. There wasn't a question that somebody could ask me about the product or the problem that I wasn't willing to discuss at length. I mean, this is a fault of an engineer. If you want to explain everything down to its last copious detail. And I didn't mind explaining all the ways it didn't work and how it could fail, because again, as an engineer, you're trained to kind of talk about everything that can go wrong too.
Right. But you have more than just that engineer quality. You can sell, right?
I hope so.
You can sell.
No, I hope so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just love the product. So I love what we did, and it was personal. I think it was personal. I mean, I think that's the other part of our business, is it is incredibly personal. I just never understand when somebody says it's not personal, it's business. I just don't get that. And again, this is another reason, right? Maybe there wouldn't have been a venture funding, source that would ever have, bet on me. I didn't have a Rolodex. I wasn't thinking about this the normal way. I was thinking, I built a great product. I believe in it. I want to tell people what's good and bad about it. And whatever our relationship is with our clients, it will be personal. It is intensely personal. Even to this day, I mean, I would do anything for any one of our clients. And on a personal level, this has nothing to do with the work. It's just that I really am truly deeply attached to each of them.
Right. I can totally understand it. And I love that. I love the way that you say that. All right. So let's skip to the story time segment, which is one of my favorites. I try to take a step outside of the conversation about what you're doing and how you came up in the business, and hear a little bit of a story from, the personal side. So you shared with me that you grew up on a sugarcane estate in Zambia. I took a look online. I found some beautiful images of Victoria Falls. Okay. But will you tell us about your upbringing and how did this shape and define who you are today? I'm curious, was there a defining moment? Is there anything that comes to memory for you when you think about your upbringing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it was wonderful growing up in Zambia. To this day, I love the smell of the earth after rains. in Africa. Like, I just absolutely still love the smell. I even went and hunted up the word for it. It's called petrichor. It's the smell of mud after the first rain. It is such a ridiculously beautiful word. And that smell, especially when it's, that deeply red soil, it's just something beautiful. So having grown up there, I think one of the things that's eye-opening is how people are deeply invested in the sport, and also how people are incredibly creative. You'll have people who may not have ever attended a game at a stadium, but their passion for their team is incredible. You'll see a group of people huddled around a radio listening. Like, it's so deeply ingrained that I think that was fascinating just to see, and that stayed with me. And then the amount of creativity that just exists was really, really, really amazing.
That's great. How long did you live there? I mean, was that where you've lived for most of your life, or?
No, I would say until I finished high school. And then after high school, it was just basically college, and then finishing up my PhD in UC Santa Barbara. And then I came to Pittsburgh, to start my professor life here.
That's great. And you shared you didn't play the sports, right?
Yep.
So did you do any sports, or what did you focus on? What were your passions back then?
I hate to say it, but when I was younger, it was video games, so it's what you do. And yes, occasionally tennis and things like that. I wish I'd taken to running earlier, because I can imagine running down the length of a sugarcane field. I mean, now I look at those pictures and all I think is, wow, that looks like a good track to run on. And, so that's the way my mind goes. I wish I'd done that sooner, but no, I didn't. I'd never seen ice hockey until I moved to Pittsburgh. I went to my first game and it was like religion for me. I was like, what on earth is this thing, and how beautiful is it? And there's something, like I said, almost religious about fans who, when they watch a live hockey game, they're silent. They're not cheering. They're so in it that they almost give this reverential silence. I'd never seen that in a sport. And it just blew my mind. And since then, I'm a live hockey fan. I don't think you ever want to go to a live hockey game with me. I don't think anybody wants to go to a live hockey game with me, especially a Penguins one.
I would like to go to a live hockey game with you.
You'll regret it.
I love hockey too. And I think each sport has its own sounds. And I think the sounds of hockey are really special, on the ice.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about women in sports for a moment here. As I mentioned in the intro, you're a true original when it comes to women-owned businesses in the sports industry. There aren't that many, okay? And I can recall, again, being completely starstruck when you accepted my interview request for SPJ. Like, wow, look at all these things this woman has accomplished. So I would just ask you, what advice do you have from your unique journey that you can share with listeners as it relates to not only being a woman in the C-suite in this industry, but also being a founder?
I would say the number one thing, use your voice. Use your voice every single day. Speak up when even people are not expecting you to speak up. Use your voice to have an opinion and to say it. No matter which room you're in, whatever other people are saying, if you know you can add to the discussion, use your voice.
That's great.
And I think that's fundamentally important, because I think I've seen more people hang back and more women hang back as well, when you feel you don't yet know if you can contribute to the discussion. My point is, use your voice. Your voice is really powerful. That's one. Second, the moment you use your voice, you are a part of the discussion. You're all in, because the next time there is a second meeting about the topic, you already contributed to the first one. So you're going to be there the second one, and the third one, and the fourth one. So that's one. The second thing is, I'm a firm believer that anybody who uses their voice cares, right? You've just shown you cared. Nobody can take that away from you.
Yes. I love don't hang back. Use your voice every single day. I think that you paint a really powerful picture in saying the moment that you show up and share your voice, ask a question, right? Asking a question shows that you care. Asking a question shows you're engaged. You become visible, you become part of the discussion, and you get invited back.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the one instrument that you have that, it doesn't take anything other than you opening your mouth and asking a question, adding to the discussion. And the more personal and unique your opinion, the more value you bring. So if you say, for example, there's a discussion around game day, and you may have never gone through game day entertainment. If you say, when I'm a fan, this is what I like, that's adding to the discussion. That is your personal viewpoint that nobody else in the room has, right? So when you use your voice and you make it personal, nobody can ever take that away from you. So my only encouragement, even to all of the people who work with me, is use your voice, use your voice. You have a voice, use it. You have a voice, use it. Do not let anybody else drown that out.
Absolutely. And secondly, your journey as a founder. I have to hear a little bit about, and you've talked about it a little bit in this interview already. I mean, coming into the business without being in the business already, as a woman with a product or service, right? What comes to mind for you, that something maybe that you wish you would have known then that you can share with others who might have dreams of doing what you're doing someday?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the things that it took me a while to understand are things like rights issues, right? It's things that you have to just know and understand, what you can and cannot do. I'll give you an example, right? So when we first started, all we did was in stadium replays. And we had to make them contain to the ball because of rights issues, right? So technology is often informed by policy. If you know the policies, you can make the technology better, right? I went into industry not knowing the policies, but knowing the technology, which is sometimes great, right? Because then you put no limits on what you can do. But it's important, I think, to know the policy side of it, because if you know the policy, the technology can be so much better.
That's a really, really great point. And it's so tactical, right? Know the policies, highlights. From being in the industry, I mean, the highlights are probably one of the most coveted,
right?
Assets, right? In sports, aside from the live feed, right? So yeah, I mean, I could certainly see you walking in and the sky's the limit and anything is possible, right? And then they're like, no, the team owns that. The team owns that. So
right, no, absolutely. I think technology makes anything possible. Policy makes it practical.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's why, right, you have the technology. And I think you always lead with that, because if you don't, you already put ceilings on yourself that you shouldn't have. So, but the technology makes it possible. The policy that makes it practical.
Absolutely. All right. So final question for you, Priya.
Sure.
Part of my mission with Wins is to build a network of women who can cheer each other on and celebrate their wins together. As you know, women represent roughly 21% of the C-suite across the big four sports leagues in the US. What wins are you working toward over the next few months, the next year? They could be personal, professional, and how can we help cheer you on?
No, thank you. How kind of you. On the professional side, one of the things that I've wanted to do from day one is make sure that all of the people who join us get to be directors, C-level leaders in our organization. I've tried hard not to hire high-level executive people to come in directly, because I want our younger people to grow into that. This is true in any industry. To get any job, you have to have experience to get experience. So how on earth are they supposed to get experience? Right. And so to me, I think it's really promote from within has been something that I've really, really been mindful of over the years. So as we've had more people come in, it's how do I make sure I am finding out what they're great at and then setting the right promotion path for them so that they are basically C-suite leaders, right? So which is what I want for them. I think that's really, really important. On the personal side, someday I hope I can run a marathon with my son if I can convince him.
I love that. Where would you run it?
Pittsburgh.
Okay. Really quick with the answer. That says a lot, right? You love Pittsburgh. You would run it in Pittsburgh. There's so many, destination marathons and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I love that goal. Well, you know what? I hope you achieve that.
Well, thank you. I'll make sure to put that post on LinkedIn and tag you as soon as I cross the finish line with him when it happens.
Please do. I will be ready to cheer you on. Marathons are an incredible accomplishment, and hopefully you'll take your camera along and take some really colorful pictures on that.
Done deal.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today, Priya. It's been an honor. And we wish you the best of luck in everything that you do personally and professionally with YinzCam and professorship and everything else that you're doing. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Amy. Congratulations on everything you've accomplished, your career, and the way you support women in industry, and the way you just support everything that's going on in the industry and how you've reported on it. It's just spectacular. Congratulations on everything you've accomplished.
Thank you, Priya, so much. That means so much to me.
Of course. Have an awesome day.
You too.
All right.